Hello there. Welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Hour of Devastation. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm joined by Paul Cheon, and it's just about time for round number one. Paul, you've done this many times. This is where the tournament begins for these players.
Oh yeah, round one. Get the jitters out.
Yeah.
All you want to do is just get in and battle. And we just got to see Mike Sigrist's red-green deck in action. Looked like a lot of fun. And there's a new function now where you get to write down your first picks.
Yeah.
Pretty easy for Sigrist. Salmon.
All right. Well, the players are ready. Let's head down to the feature match area for round one here from Pro Tour Hour of Devastation. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Hour of Devastation. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon, and we're ready for round one action where we've got a very nice matchup for you here. Let's take a look at our players. We've got Bram Snepvangers from the Netherlands. Bram's here on his Hall of Fame invite. He's got four Pro Tour top 8s on his resume. Other side of the table, Mike Sigrist from Team Channel Fireball Ice. He, of course, was our Player of the Year back in 2015, and also a noted limited player from the East Coast of the United States, and they're ready to go here in Kyoto. Let's get things going. Paul, red-green for Mike Sigrist?
Yeah, red-green. Basically, all you're looking to do is just curve out. There's actually not a whole lot of synergies in the red-green deck. You just have a lot of efficient creatures. You want to finish them off with some combat tricks and just kind of curve out and get your opponent. Sigrist does have some really nice finishers to give him some reach. He did, of course, first pick Samet in both packs 2 and 3, and he got a really, really late Inferno Jet, which is a card I really, really like if you're looking to beat down.
Now, what about on the other side of the table, Bram Snepvangers? He's white-black, and we were looking at it and kind of thinking, is this a control deck?
Okay, so typically the white-black deck is kind of an aggressive zombie deck. It's a tribal deck, but Bram has drafted a different kind of white-black deck.
He really has.
Yeah, he's drafted white-black control, and this deck is really, really sweet. He's got Hour of
Revelation.
Revelation. He has Hour Revelation, triple Moaning Wall.
He just drew one, by the way.
Well, he's got 3.
Yeah.
Really, really great blocker. Again, in this format, now you can actually block a bit more reasonably than you could in just triple Amonkhet. He's got Razaketh's Right, which he can use to tutor the sweeper effect. And then as his finisher, 2 copies of Torment of Hailfire.
Wow. I was going to say unconventional tactics, but this is just actually unconventional tactics.
It is.
You will not see that card in Bram's list here.
I can safely say I've never drafted this deck yet.
And
I mean, look at that Moaning Wall. It is brick walling all of Sigrist's creatures.
It is indeed, and it just blocked to preserve 3 of Bram Snepvangers' life here. And Bram's just looking to kind of keep adding to the board, and specifically to keep playing lands. In fact, you're going to see him play his cycling land there, Desert of the Glorified. He wants to make sure he gets enough mana to keep casting his spells, but also start activating that fan bear when the time comes right.
Right, and another great defensive creature here, Those Who Serve, just locking down 2 of Mike Sigrist's creatures.
He has 12 toughness right now. What in the world?
And he's got the Hour of Revelation in hand?
But look at this. Mike Sigrist just windmilling the Hippo here, and this could be a game that's absolutely decided by Hour of Revelation, because Mike does not know that Bram has that card. Bram, I believe, he first picked it. In fact, he pick one, Hour of Revelation.
It's a great card to build around.
Yeah, they don't even know that it's on the table, and now Snepvangers is just going to sit back. Now, the interesting question becomes, Paul, how far can he go? He's going to use the fan bearer to keep that rampaging Hippo at bay, and otherwise he's got the board pretty well locked. He can sit behind this wall for a while.
He can actually wait till Mike Sigrist drops at least one more threat onto the battlefield before playing out the Hour. Now, he might be greedy and actually just wait a little bit longer, because
I think I would. He's at 18.
Again, you're at 18. Mike doesn't really have an attack here yet, unless he has a combat trick.
Now, there are a lot of ways in this format to get a lot of damage through, even beyond combat, namely the Inferno Jet that Mike not only has in his deck, but also in his hand. So Bram will try to keep his life total relatively high, not be super greedy, but at 18, he can take some hits.
Right. And Bram might actually be able to use the alternate casting cost here of Hour of Revelation.
He
which
might.
Is, if you control 10 or more non-land permanents, it only costs 3 white mana.
Yeah, it's just if there's it's just if there are 10 or more on the battlefield at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're on 8 now.
He's on 8.
We're getting there. And the thing is here, so if you also look at Bram's hand, he has a Steadfast Sentinel in his hand, I believe. So he doesn't mind just running that out there. And that might get Mike to actually just play out another large threat. And it's an eternalized creature. He's still getting kind of value out of that anyways because you want the 4/4. So I would imagine that's what he's going to go for. There's no real reason here to go for the Wrath.
Right. It also sells the story beautifully
Yeah.
because he's putting out another blocker, yet leaving up mana for Fanbearer, and it's going to be really hard for Sigrist to figure out that Snepvangers has a sweeper here. Now, last turn, Bram just went land go, and that will raise a little bit of a little red light in the back of Mike's head, but this just looks exactly like he's doing things that if you don't have a sweeper.
Right. I mean, just Bram's play, nothing suspicious. He's just sequencing everything, and it just everything is lining up perfectly for him. So, if I was on Mike's side, there would just be no way I would look to play around a Wrath effect here.
Now, here's an interesting interaction, though. There's now a mouth to feed in Mike Sigrist's hand. Now,
he's 1 mana short.
Is he? I mean, he's
Yeah.
got the Hope Tender as well. Is it still not enough?
With the Hope Tender, he has access to 6 mana.
Ugh.
So he needs to have if he had a land, he would have been able to pull it off. Now
What we're talking about, let's clarify here, right, is casting it and using the Aftermath in the same step.
Right.
And that's huge here because, if Mike decides to go, I'll cast Mouth, go, then Snepvangers is going to be like, boom, wipe the board, and then feed looks a lot worse.
And, again, if you're not playing around the sweeper, there's no real reason to kind of play it around that, right? Like Mike can just go Mouth, Exemplar, go, and then just pass it. And then Bram can just play the Hour, and it's going to be so devastating.
Let's see if he casts Mouth. This is the big step here from Sigrist. Oh, he's thinking about it.
Well, the thing is, if he doesn't draw a land, he can't cast speed still.
Right. So he decided to keep it. Look at Mike Sigrist.
Looking to just play out a land here.
Now, the interesting part is that Bram's draw step was an Angel of Enduring Hope. Now, that's not the kind of card you want to play into your sweeper generally, but yeah, Bram's just going to pass a turn back.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible he would have played it out if he had a 7th land, so he can play the Aven and then also use the Fanbearer to tap down the Hippo.
Yeah, then maybe even just start attacking with the Aven. I mean, he would actually be ahead on board potentially.
This is getting a little bit, again, if Mike drew a land here, the Hour is not even going to be enough. Mike's going to draw how many cards here?
Let's see. He's got 1, 2, 3. I don't think he can get the Exemplar where it wants to be. 4. So it would be 5 cards, Paul.
Right.
And that is one way to recover from a sweeper quite nicely. But the timing on this Mouth to Feed is so important. Is Sigrist just going to say, well, no, he's still not going to play Mouth to Feed?
I think this might be enough cards here at this point.
Yeah.
Where Bram might fire off the Hour here because
it's also 11 permanent, so
he's getting the discount.
He gets the discount. I've never seen anybody cast it for 3.
Yeah, this is crazy.
He might be able to cast it and then play something else in the same turn potentially too.
Yeah, he would need another white source. Wow, he's being more patient. He's still waiting.
All right, Sigrist drew the land. He drew the land, and this is a huge opening for Sigrist. Now he gets to draw 6?
Yeah.
Yes, it's 6 cards for Sigrist.
And the fact that Mike actually just opted to play around.
He is so good.
Yeah,
how did he know?
He could have just played a Mouth at any point in this game.
He decided specifically that it was true. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that there are 2 sweepers in white-black.
Right.
And when you see somebody playing Moaning Wall, Dutiful Servants, you're definitely thinking, well, wait a second. But still, I think you just have to play it until they show you. But look at Mike Sigrist.
Oh, my goodness. And not only that, right? Bram Snepvangers has 4 cards in his hand. He's playing white-black, and you're seeing Moaning Walls and Doze Who Serves in his deck. It's very likely that he has a sweeper. I know normally you're told not to play around rares, but just given Bram's setup and the way he's playing, wow.
Sigrist, he's drawing 6 cards. I am so impressed by Mike here. Look, again, I think it would be in the back of my head. He could have Bantu's Last Reckoning. He could have Hour. But the way that Snepvangers has played hasn't just shown you that. He also has just played a defensive game here. Perhaps that last turn tipped it off.
Yeah, and now
Is Mike just going to attack with the bunch because he thinks his guys are going to die anyway?
Yeah, the only issue with that is if Bram just uses profitable blocks, he still just doesn't have to use the hour.
Right. So Sigrist is in a situation where he wants to try to utilize his creatures while they're still on the battlefield, but he also doesn't want to throw them away.
Right. For example, attacking with the Exemplar of Strength doesn't really do a whole lot because of both the Steadfast Sentinel and the Dozu Serve. He can probably attack with some of his 3/3s if he really wanted to, or he could opt to just be a little more patient and attack next turn. But I think he's sniffing out a Wrath effect here. Well, he's got to have a salmon at this point, right?
I mean, he's statistically likely to, for sure. He says, how many cards?
Snepvangers has a loaded hand here.
Yeah, his hand with the Torment of Hailfire, he's got 2 of those. Those are his primary win conditions. He's really just trying to sit back, sweep the board, build up his mana, and then go Torment, Torment.
Yeah, Torment's an interesting card because it's generally better, I think, in an aggressive deck, right? You want to be pressuring your opponent, and then, you can get this process going and just deal a lot of damage. You're going to need a lot of mana on the battlefield to try to finish off an opponent that's looking to attack you.
And it looks like Sigrist has decided, nope, the attack is not worth it. He wanted to. Like, he is 100% dialed into Bram having the potential for a sweeper here, but he's decided that it would be too costly on board to attack, so he's declined that attack.
So, Jiru's renunciation there?
Probably just for cycling in Bram's deck. Like, he does not have an opportunity very often to get blockers out of the way and start attacking.
Yeah, Bram really wants to draw another white source. That way he can play an hour and follow that up with an Aven of Enduring Hope to kind of have a nice board presence. Again, Mike doesn't have like a great attack, but at this point, I think Mike can force through some damage, and he doesn't really need to add too much more to the board.
The Fan Bear still doing good work here for Bram. Keeping that Rampaging Hippo, the only creature that can really crash through over the Moaning Wall.
And Mike Sigrist doesn't really have a ton of removal spells in his deck. I think Samit is one of them, and I believe he has a Magma Spray to deal with these Fan Bearers.
Okay, well, here he goes. Sigrist is just going to go ahead and attack with everything. Remember, the Hippo on the bottom of your screen was tapped down. That's not actually attacking. The Hope Tender also not attacking. It was exerted last
There is
turn.
another Hippo that is attacking.
Yes, there is. There is a mini Hippo.
Are we one away from a bloat? Or are 2... How many Hippos is a bloat?
I would say 3 is probably the
Okay,
minimum
yeah,
for a bloat. Yeah. Oh, man.
So I imagine, one of the 2 power creatures is going to jump in front of the Exemplar of Strength. I imagine the 2 white creatures on the left seems best if you just put them in front of the Initiate's Companion, the Exemplar Strength. It looks like he's opting to fire off a Sandblast here prior to blocks.
Yeah, so this is an interesting game that they're playing now because Bram has good blocks, the ones that you described.
Right.
That's those who serve just eating up a creature.
If he has a Salmon, he can finish off both of these creatures.
Oh, does he have it?
I don't know.
Oh, he's got Manticore Eternal. And that's it.
How much damage did he get in there? 6?
Yeah, he's got him down to 12. And let's not forget that Sigrist has an Inferno Jet in his hand, too. So Sigrist is playing a different game than Bram is. He's saying, I need to get you to 6, not get you down to 0 like normal.
Right.
And he's willing to throw away a couple of creatures to punch in damage. And now, importantly, he's got 2 5-powered creatures on the battlefield. And that's a big deal because the Fan Bear taking care of the Rampaging Hippo has been really good for Bram thus far because none of the other creatures could actually profitably attack through the wall. But now Sigrist does have a good attacker for the wall. Wall.
And Afflict just fantastic against walls.
Yes. It also works nicely with Inferno Jet.
All right, so what is Bram going to do? Is he going to fire off this Hour of Revelation?
He's got to be getting nervous here. Down to 12 life, and Sigrist clearly has a game plan. And, of course, the real issue here is that Sigrist drew 6 cards last turn and has 6 cards in hand, and that's got to make Snepvangers nervous.
He does get the discount here, and I do see a black card in his hand.
And he just asked Mike, how many cards do you have? And Mike said, 6, man.
I have all of the cards.
I got them all.
I see a black card in Bram's hand. I'm just assuming it's another Moaning Wall. Yeah, it's another Moaning Wall.
You were right.
Here's a question, though. Because of the 2 giant creatures. You got the Afflict creature and the Rampaging Hippo. Will Bram opt to just play out another Fan Bearer here, just for defense? If get even more value.
It is interesting because he has really been able to lock down this board for the most part. I mean, Mike had to throw away 2 creatures last turn to get in that damage.
Yeah, and this is really interesting. Again, Mike's just going to get a good attack in every single turn now because those walls don't really stop the big creatures. So, interesting.
Yeah.
I might have been tempted to just play the Sweeper and then follow that up with the Moaning Wall.
It does feel like it's starting to get time. I think Bram is really trying to sell to Mike that, hey, I don't have the Sweeper. Just play 2 more creatures and then I'll do it.
Right.
But Sigrist is so next level. He really is playing this game beautifully with those, with the possibility of a Sweeper in mind.
He's trying to put just enough threats on the board because all he needs to do is get Bram down to 6 life.
That's right. And he's basically guaranteed to get in for something here thanks to the Manticore Eternal. Yeah. That has to get blocked.
Are we just sending everything in again?
That is the question. He's lining up how he thinks Bram will block. Bram's blocks look a lot worse than before now that the 2 small creatures are gone. Everything Sigrist has is big. The only one left is the Hope Tender that's not, at least a 3/3.
Yeah, so if he attacks with all the creatures on the right, I imagined the Manticore will likely just go through unblocked because it already has the Afflict 3. And the Moaning Walls would just go on the Quarry Hauler and the 3/3s.
Right.
The Bram does get to just eat the Hope Tender for free if Mike Sigrist does opt to get in there. But again, Mike Sigrist game plan, get Bram to 6. That is all.
And if he can get that Manticore Eternal through,
and everything,
then he's in great shape. All right, everybody's in for Sigrist. Like you said, the Hope Tender is a free. He can eat that for free with either of his 2/3 or his 2/4.
Yeah, the Manticore is probably getting through here, and then Bram can just basically block everything and not lose anything. But
this really would force Bram to fire off the Sweeper next turn, right? Because Bram, even going down to 7 here, is going to be aware of cards like Inferno Jet here.
Yeah, again, I think I might have actually even just considered playing the Fan Bearer there, or just play the Hour, one or the other.
He is playing with fire is what he's doing right now. So Bram down to 7. And there's a scrapper now for Mike Sigrist.
The real question is, at what point did Mike Sigrist got that Inferno Jet really late? So Bram knows that he's past one at some point in the draft. So he has to be really mindful of that.
He definitely does. Now, he's got the Aven of Enduring Hope. Mm-hmm. So he does have the ability to regain some of that life back. But right now, he's in a bad spot. And he's probably going to have to fire off the Sweeper here.
Right.
I mean, look, he's not dead. It's just he's walking a very fine line at this point.
Right. Did he draw a white source? No, it doesn't look like it. What is he doing here? Okay.
He's going to get in an attack and then fire off the Sweeper.
Yeah, it looks like he doesn't have a follow-up here.
And look at Sigrist. Look at Sigrist. He's already picking up the cards. Remember, he has no idea that that card is actually in his deck.
Right.
And Sigrist knew it. He knew it from way back. Now, he had information that would show him that. Oh, is that Ronus's last stand off the top? Hello, friend.
And again, Bram is only at 7 life here.
Okay, he's going to make a 5/4. Now, this actually is a little annoying for Mike because this is the turn when he's going to dump his hand.
Right.
And he won't be able to untap next turn, but still, he's going to have a great hand.
Looks like
or a great board, I should say.
It looks like he just has a couple of lands in hand along with the Inferno Jet. So if Bram can find a few more answers here. I'm assuming a 5/4 token is going to be entering the battlefield at some point.
Yeah, they're just grabbing the token. That one of the judges is getting that for Sigrist.
Soul Stinger, though, excellent card here. It actually just trades 1-for-1 with the Ronus's last stand.
Wow, that is good.
Oh, interesting.
Well, Bram's going to take a more mana-efficient route here by eternalizing his Steadfast Sentinel, but it doesn't quite do it the way he wants, just because neither of these creatures actually do block the 5/4 token here. I mean, they can block it. I shouldn't say that, but they trade with it.
Yeah. Could he have played the Aven and the Soul Stinger this turn? No, I don't think so.
No, he didn't have quite enough mana.
So Mike is just going to attack with both, and Bram is going to go down to 4 life here.
He is going to go down to 4.
Actually, he could also opt to just block the Naga here, right?
Yes, and go down to 2. The problem with that is if he's trying to play around Inferno Jet, that doesn't get the job done even with the Aven.
Right. If you go to 4, then you can untap, play the Aven, go to 7, and play around the Inferno Jet.
That's right.
It's really interesting here. What is he going to do?
And Sigrist
does he want the value, or does he want to just make sure he can't get jetted out?
Yeah, that is the question. And like you said, this decision's a little different here for Bram because he will have seen that Inferno Jet, and he is going to play around it. Sigrist has kindled fury to kind of apply pressure from both angles here. He says, you don't have another sweeper.
But Bram, I mean, the big thing here is Bram did get to untap.
Yep.
He's down to 4, but he's going to go back up to 7. He can play the Aven and lock down the 5-4.
That's right. He doesn't have quite enough mana to play the Soul Stinger in the Aven this turn, but he can leave up Fanbear.
Exactly. So, you know.
He's going to be at 10 life as well, right?
Well, I believe he took 3 damage last turn,
you're
so
right.
He at 4 here.
I believe you're right.
Yeah. So probably go back up to 7 here, and then, again, lock down the 5-4 and try to trade with the Harrier Naga.
Look at Sigrist is like, just don't gain life. Because he's got the Inferno Jet in his hand. He's just like, you're dead.
Right.
Look at Sigrist.
Why is he not playing the Aven?
He's like, don't.
You got to play the Aven here.
I'm sure he's playing the Aven.
Okay. Because I saw it with 4 mana tap. All right, there we go. Oh.
And Sigrist is like,
we got a nail biter here.
Indeed. This is very, very close. Because now Bram actually has to trade the Aven off for the Harrier Naga, or else he's dead.
Yeah.
We're assuming the snake's gonna get tapped.
Oh, but he drew Samut.
He did?
That's 9. That's 8 damage. Samut can go.
Which Samut did he draw?
He drew the Planeswalker.
He drew the Planeswalker. It's enough.
And Bram only has 1 white up, so this is lethal.
This is absolutely lethal. So Inferno jet you down to 1, and then
card.
Samut you
the
for
perfect
2.
card. Let me read this. Does this go to the face?
Bram's like, really?
The face is the place.
Wow, Mike Sigrist played that so beautifully. Man, he just knew.
Yeah.
He was playing around a sweeper since like turn 3.
Yeah.
It was because the play that really stood out was the mount the feed. That was it. Wow. What an incredible game 1 to kick off our Pro Tour here. We've got a lot more Magic for you, but first, these messages.
Check out Hour of Devastation booster draft leagues on Magic Online. Draft anytime, play anytime. Available now. For more information, visit mtgo.com.
That's when you're like,
And welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour Hour of Devastation. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. Let's take a look At one of our side tables, while we've got a little break on our front table there, let's take a look at Kentaro Yamamoto, who we saw draft and finds himself up a game against Dagoberto Israel Silva Aranda from Mexico.
He's got that Archfiend on the board, but thinking about Kentaro's draft, I don't think he had that many cyclers in his deck. He had a few lands, I think.
Right. We did see, in fact, he's got 2 copies there of Desert of the Indomitable on the board. Those are the ones that really stood out.
Right.
But the only other cycler was the Archfiend itself.
Right. And given that he was mono green, not a lot of green cyclers. Oh, he does have a couple of hippos.
He does.
To trigger that, so.
And he took those highly. We know he likes that.
What do we got here?
This looks like Kentaro's significantly behind, but has an Archfiend of Ifnir. So, oh, wow. He has Archfiend plus Hapatra? Wait a sec. Wow, he would kill for cycling anything at this point. Does he have a hippo?
I don't think so.
So if he cycled, he'd get to put a -1/-1 counter on each of Dagoberto's creatures, and he'd get a 1/1 Death Touch snake for each.
I believe that's how that works.
Combo assembled?
Wow.
But he doesn't have a cycler.
Right.
His deck is not specifically built around the Archfiend. He's playing it just because it's great. That's a lethal sting. All right, that is going to help, though. He's actually going to kill his own camel, force Dagoberto to discard a card, and he will get a Death Touch snake while taking out Dagoberto's best creature.
Kentaro just getting maximum value out of all the synergies in his deck here.
Yeah, the only downside is that his camel will die in this transaction.
But it will get a card.
But it'll get a card. Exactly. So the Marauding Bone Slasher looks like it was the target of the lethal sting. But this 1/1 Death Touch snake versus the ground creatures, wow. And he gets a counter, of course, as well.
Wait, did he discard a card as well?
He targeted himself with the camel.
Interesting. Oh, to trigger, of course, the Archfiend of Ifnir.
Exactly.
Right. Sorry.
So he that's right. So he gets, in the end of it, he gets to kill the Dauntless Aven as well. And then he gets all the snakes. So we were hoping for a cycler for Kentaro.
Right. No, but he was setting it up himself. Master.
My goodness. Kentaro Yamamoto, everybody. That was impressive.
Jeez.
Look at the board now. Oh, my
That was one of those, like, Magic the Puzzlings.
he just drew a cycler, too. He just drew without weakness off the top.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, put on your seatbelts, everybody. This is the Kentaro Yamamoto show.
And Kentaro was at 5 life.
He was at 5, and now he has 2 more snakes, and he's facing down a 1/2.
And a Tenacious Hunter.
That's what he drew?
I believe that was... Oh, my.
And he's going to start battling here. Remember, yeah, you're going to want to read that one, Dagoberto, because if she connects, then there's another +1/+1 or -1/-1 counter going on a creature, and another Death Touch snake joining the team.
Yeah. This is totally absurd. This is the best Hapatra I've ever seen.
Yeah. It turns out Hapatra and Archfiend of Ifnir are just BFFs because this is absurd.
It's rare. Wow.
And all Dagoberto can do is Eternalize here, and he's going to put out almost a useless 4/4.
That's crazy, too, because a 4/4 Vigilance creature is just a strong creature.
Yeah.
But not on this board.
Looks awful here. Was that a hippo?
That was. Oh, my.
Wow.
So now he can cycle the hippo if he wanted, which would give the Tenacious Hunter Vigilance and allow the Tenacious Hunter to attack through. Of course, he could also just play the hippo.
I like this. He's going to cycle it, get himself another snake and a card. Oh, he didn't find another cycler.
Now the hunter has Vigilance. Oh. This is 8 damage.
Oh, no. Does he know? Yeah, he must know. So he's trading off his 3/3 Vigilance here for a snake.
It's got Death Touch.
I don't think he knew. Yeah, but I also don't think it's super relevant here, Paul, because Kentaro Yamamoto wins the match. Boy, it was 20-5 and not looking great when we came in.
Right.
And then the magic happened.
Yeah, he figured it out. That was very impressive.
Yeah, Yamamoto wins. Looks like we're just about ready to go back to our main table here, so we'll go back and see what Bram Snepvangers and Mike Sigrist are up to. I can tell you also that Ivan Flock and Thiago Saporito are tied at a game apiece, and Josh Utter-Layton's battling against Ryuichi Tamada, and Josh is up a game as well in his match. All right, let's get back underway here, though, on our main table. Bram's going to be on the play for this one, and he's got a Sunset Pyramid to kick things off, a nice little card draw engine for the later part of the game. But he is going to need to commit to the board, as Mike's deck tends to be pretty assertive.
Right. And I think now that Mike definitely knows that Bram has access to a sweeper in his deck, I think that the kind of it favors Mike a lot more, because now he can afford to play around it and kind of navigate the game that way.
He did before. He's
well, yeah,
so
he had
good.
he had the sick reads, but
did. What do you think it was specifically from game one that gave it away to Mike? So was it the moaning wall? Because you don't usually play that card.
Yeah, yeah. So Bram playing multiple moaning walls definitely gave some information away. But I think the first 5 or 6 turns of the game, Bram just played out a bunch of creatures on curve. Didn't really feel like he necessarily had a wrath. But then there was a turn where wow,
this is insane for Sigrist, by the way. He just played Samut the Tested and used it to kill one of Bram's best cards, a Fan Bear, and it's on an empty board.
Right. The turn where Bram basically passed with 4 cards in hand with a bunch of creatures, I think that was kind of the moment where Mike Sigrist was like, okay, there's something's a little fishy here. He's got 6 mana in play, 4 cards in hand, and he hasn't played anything, and he hasn't played a land. What's going on? And that's where he was probably thinking, okay, well, there's a reasonable chance that he might have a sweeper here, so let's not play the mouth to feed until I have the ability to cast both sides of that card.
Which ended up being so critical. Wow, here's an opening now for Sigrist to make an interesting decision. If he wants to add to his board, he can maybe get in the way of that Vizier, but he also could just cash in Samut to kill the Vizier here while the shields are down.
Yeah, but having a Planeswalker on the board, I imagine if he doesn't have to, he won't. And he does have a Magma Spray in hand.
Oh, well, there you go.
Right.
A much better answer. Frontline Devastator is going to give the frontline, Samut's going to give the Frontline Devastator double strike, but of course it has Summoning Sickness, so it's just a loyalty bump there for Samut Tested.
And Bram, really, really rough. He's really good at kind of mucking up the ground with those walls, but it's looking pretty embarrassing here next to a Planeswalker and a Frontline Devastator.
That is a lot of damage. A pump creature that can get double strike.
Right.
Oh, no, and Snepvangers is just using his Sunset Pyramid again, and that is just not what he wants to be doing at this stage. It's so clunky.
Yeah, Sigrist is just kind of running away with this. Not a whole lot Bram can do.
Yeah, Catcher's Avenger is a fine Magic card, but he is just going to get ran over by Sigrist if he can't do anything about Samut the Tested here.
Yeah, so now Sigrist can opt to just get the Avenger here, just to get it off the board so that he can just ensure that he gets to use Samut every single turn. Or he can just try to get really aggressive and just kind of attack in for 6, potentially more.
Yeah, it's got to be tempting, though, to just go ahead and kill the Avenger here while the shields are down, and he does that.
Yeah, this Samut's just already gotten 2 creatures for free.
This is the best Samut the Tested I've ever seen. For a Planeswalker, it's not one of those dominates the board, just ends the game style cards. It's a little bit more of the sort of incremental advantage. But boy, Sigrist has found a spot for Samut the Tested to be fantastic, killing a Fan Bear and a Catcher's Avenger here.
Yeah. This Samut, definitely one of those cards. It feels more like a great limited card, probably not good enough and constructed.
Right.
But yeah, definitely taking over this game.
But wait, there's more. A Manticore now for Sigrist as well.
Also, Bram, only 1 white source in play, so he can't even cast the Hour if he had it.
Yeah, and the problem is, well, there's another one. He does have Razaketh's Right in hand as well, so he could take a turn to go get it.
Right.
And remember, the Hour of Revelation destroys everything.
Non-land permanents, it would get the Samut.
It would get Samut. So Bram may need to look at this board and say, if I tap out for Razaketh's Right here, am I dead? Which the question, so he would get for 4 plus 6, 8, 10, 12. He'd be at 1.
Well, he could give the Frontline Devastator double strike, right? So that would be 12 plus 4, 16.
Oh, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're right. So he actually just would be dead, so he can't do that.
Yeah, the question is Mike just going to go for it here? 11.
Welp.
Because he does know that Bram has access to Sandblast in his deck, so he has to be mindful of that card. So if he doesn't want to use a bunch of mana off the frontline Devastator, he'll likely just give he can just give Double Strike to the Manticore of the Gauntlet.
Here's Mouth for Sigrist.
Okay.
And he's going to feed to draw 3 cards.
Yeah. And this is nice. Again, he's casting a pre-combat because he does know that Bram has Sandblast in his deck, and he wants to make sure that he gets those 3 cards. Also, if Bram wants to respond by using a removal effect, then Mike can opt to use Samut on the other creature that didn't get killed.
Well, looks like he's still considering just giving it to the Devastator.
Just to play around Sandblast.
Yeah, the question is, would he rather have the Devastator in later turns here? But it looks like he's going to do that, and he's going to get Sandblasted. But he's still getting in for 4 damage. And he's going to knock Bram down to 9, and it's not looking good for Snepvangers here.
Still in a lot of trouble here.
Because he doesn't have a 3rd white mana source, so Hour of Revelation's not a live draw for him. Which is a shame, because it would be a fantastic draw for him normally.
And that Torment of Hailfire not looking especially great here.
It looks awful because he's behind. It's only good when you're ahead or at parity.
Right.
He finds that those who serve off of a cycled Desert of the Glorified, but is that enough? Probably enough to keep him alive.
Yeah, it'll definitely buy him 1 turn. Unfortunately, that will put Bram into the Inferno Jet range, where now Mike will have any opportunity to do that.
Well, it looks like he's going to play a Moaning Wall instead. Now, he may also just need to cycle the Razaketh right here.
Yeah, the sequence of draws Bram might need is to just draw planes into Hour of Revelation.
Right.
So cycling gives him the ability to do that.
Yeah, now the downside here, though, is that he didn't leave himself 2 black mana available. And he's actually got a way to save his Moaning Wall here with a Supernatural Stamina. But he can't do that and cycle.
Right. And it looks like he doesn't really care about that. Oh, and there's the Inferno
Jet.
Jet.
Inferno Jet. That's going to do it. Mike
Wow.
Sigrist makes short work of Bram Snepvangers here in game number 2. Game number 1 was one for the ages. Game number 2, a little more straightforward from Sigrist. He really was able to leverage Samut the Tested, the Planeswalker there, to manage the board of Bram Snepvangers and finish things off with an Inferno Jet. But oh boy, did we get off to a great start here in Kyoto. That's Paul Chian. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. Welcome back to the booth here, and we're very happy to have you along as, wow, what a great start to the tournament.
Yeah, game 1 was awesome.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the back and forth. Mike Sigrist trying to figure out if Bram has a Wrath in his deck, then choosing to play around the sweeper by holding on to that mouth feed and waiting for the perfect time to cash it in for 6 cards. That was incredible.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Really expert play, of course, from our players down in the feature match area. That's what you come here for. I mean, this is the Pro Tour. These are the best players in the game, and we got to see a little bit of that on display here in the early stages. All right, well, that is going to do it for our first round of action here. We're going to send it back to the news desk, but first, these messages.
Hello and welcome back to the news desk here at Pro Tour Hour of Devastation. After one round of draft, we are getting results coming in. The biggest race that we're watching is, of course, the race for Draft Master. Travis Wu wins his match. So if he wins out and everybody else doesn't go 6-0, he is actually Draft Master. So right now, currently 1-0, well on his way to clinching that title. Some more results for you. Martin Yuza wins his round, starting the day off at 1-0. Reed Duke also starting the day off a winner at 1-0. Paulo Vitor Damaderosa at 1-0 right now, as well as Marcel Carvalho winning his match at 1-0. Yuya Watanabe drops a match, loses his first round. Makis Matsoukas at 1-0, as well as Tim Wu at 1-0. Owen Turtenwald loses his round as well. So we got Brian David Marshall down in our feature match area with Mike Sigrist. Let's take a listen.
Thanks, Maria. I'm here with Mike Sigrist. Mike, the commentators were pretty impressed with your ability to get a read on your opponent. It's a term we use when we're talking about Magic, of kind of having a sense of maybe what's in their hand. Walk us through that game and how you got a sense of what was going on with Bram Snepvangers' hand.
So game one, he had a bunch of walls and fan bear and stuff, which taps my creatures down, and I didn't really have an offensive, and he wasn't deploying any more creatures, which is pretty much a telltale sign that he's either got like cards like Sandblast or Sweeper in his hand. And he was sitting to my right, so I knew he took a rare pick one, pack one. So there's both the White Hour and Bantu's Reckoning as sweepers. So I kind of navigated it by deploying creatures, and I wasn't really threatening him, so he had all the incentive to just wait around. And I didn't cast Mouth to Feed on several turns, because if I do cast Mouth to Feed, he's likely to just sweep all my cards and I'm not going to draw cards. So I waited until I had exactly 7 mana so that I could cast it all in one turn, draw my 6 cards, and then even if he does have a sweeper, I'm still going to have more cards in my hand than him, and I can take it from there. So, and then after that happened, then I just started shoving my creatures in because I want to get his damage in. I have Inferno Jet in my hand, so I just want to get his life total as low as possible.
Now, how often does that come into play, that you take note of the rarity, that someone has taken as they pass that first pack to you. How often does that actually come into play, and how important a skill is that when you're sitting down at a Pro Tour draft table?
It doesn't come into play that often. I mean, you're still like a dog to pair against them, but I always am taking note of those things when I'm drafting, because it also helps me pick up a read on what the player on my right is drafting. If they take a rare and there's good cards in the pack still, it doesn't really tell me that they're not in red or whatever. If they pass me a good red card, it just tells me that they took a better card. So I'm always, at least for like the first 4 to 6 picks or something, I want to note the rarities left in the pack so that I have an idea of what the people on my right could be drafting. If there's a premium common, but there's 3 uncommons and a rare missing, pick 5, doesn't really tell me much. If all the uncommons are bad and they're still in the pack, and there's a premium common, then I know they're taking other commons over it, and they're probably not in that color or trying to avoid it or whatever. And then I can pick that up as a signal and move and draft from there, navigate the draft from there.
Now you're a draft connoisseur.
Yeah.
How have you been enjoying this draft format as you've been preparing for this Pro Tour?
I love this draft format. I really liked Unmunked at first, and it got too aggressive for me towards the end or whatever. But because there's a lot of sweet things you can do in Unmunked, but this one really just you can be aggressive, you can be controlling, you can play a ramp deck. All the strategies are viable, and I really enjoy that because it lets you draft a new deck every time instead of trying to draft the red-white aggressive deck every time or whatever and do that. All the archetypes are good.
Yeah, you see that with Bram Snepvangers. He's a black-white deck, but not aggro zombies. He was playing control, and you had the read on him. So good job on you, Mike Sigrist. Good luck the rest of the way here at Pro Tour Hour of Devastation.
Thanks so much, BDM. And just to recap, as we watch the race for Draft Master, Travis Wu, if he goes undefeated in draft, will be our Draft Master, and he is on his way. He won his first round. Owen Turtenwald, who is right on his heels, lost his first round, and Martin Yuza, who is also in the mix, won his first round. So now let's take a listen. Later in the show, we're going to take a listen to Owen Turtenwald's interview from yesterday during registration. But before we do that, we've got Rich and our very own Louis Scott Vargas over at the video wall to give us a closer look at Black Red in draft.